I knew Monday was going to be a buffet of bullshit the second I saw Claire roll in with her pumpkin spice vape and a Starbucks cup that said Queen of Disruption. She swished through the office like she owned the damn subnet, plopped herself into the seat across from me, and said to the room, loud as hell, "Someone get IT Barbie to the server room." The blinking lights should keep her entertained. Laughter. Real, open mouth, sing-clackin' cackling from the peanut gallery. I didn't flinch, didn't blink. I smiled, one of those tight-lipped, tired ones that only middle-aged women and cornered wolves know how to give. The kind of smile that says, I've buried people with better jokes. See, I've been the backbone of this company's tech since Obama had black hair. The duct tape holding together our legacy systems, that was me. The overnight patches that saved us from GDPR violations, also me. Entire onboarding system Claire just clicked through without reading. Guess who wrote the code comments? And for 12 years, I didn't ask for a trophy, a plaque, or even a freaking office plant. I just showed up, did the job, and made sure the machine kept running while other people collected innovation bonuses for renaming folders. Now, before we go any deeper, real quick, if you've made it this far and you're nodding, smirking, or whispering oh hell no under your breath, do me a favor, tap that subscribe button and throw us a like. 90% of y'all listen and ghost like it's a Tinder date gone good. But your clicks, they keep our little digital revenge engine purring. And yeah, it makes the whole team do a petty little dance when we see those numbers tick up. Anyway, Claire was the boss's niece, fresh out of some bougie online coding bootcamp with a certificate in one hand and a TikTok following in the other. Her uncle Arku brought her in as a strategic pipeline enhancement consultant, which is corporate speak for she's here to fail upward. She wore oversized glasses with no prescription and told everyone she was building a brand. Her first week, she started sending Slack polls about rebranding our internal systems, wanted to rename our production server Hot Girl Main. Her second week, she started elbowing into IT meetings. By week 3, she was calling herself Chief Innovation Queen and started throwing around phrases like serverless future and legacy-free architecture like confetti at a tech frat party. Claire was all cloud and no cables. Didn't know a load balancer from a cheese platter. The kicker, our execs loved her. She talked fast, she smiled big, and she told them what they wanted to hear, that the system was outdated and the old guard was slowing things down. We need to pivot, said in one meeting, from survival mode to slay mode. I nearly choked on my coffee. That's when they made her project lead for the infrastructure migration. She wanted to shift us off our cobbled together, but deeply customized, in-house stacked to some trendy platform with glossy dashboards and AI this and machine learning that. Never mind that half our workflows depended on ancient Perl scripts, duct taped to APIs that hadn't been documented since Bush Jr. Office. Claire naturally didn't ask me to join her planning sessions. In fact, she stopped CCing me on team emails, started inviting the marketing intern to infrastructure syncs instead. She removed my access to the shared Google Drive, which I already backed up locally, of course. She went into the company's Slack and created a private channel called Ops Reboot without me. Someone accidentally tagged me in it once and she deleted the thread. Real subtle. That one, I didn't say a damn word. Instead, I did what middle-aged women in IT do best. I started documenting everything. Saved every Slack ping, every email, every calendar event. I made copies of server configs, took screenshots of flowcharts she drew on the whiteboard. I even recorded one Zoom call on my phone where she said, "We don't need to worry about compliance. This is more of a vibe shift." Claire thought I was dead weight, that I was too old, too quiet, too passive. She didn't realize I was just patient, that I liked watching cocky people speed toward a cliff with no seatbelt. She didn't notice I still had root access to every system she was replacing. Didn't realize every file she touched was still backed by a shadow directory I maintained on a forgotten Linux box named after my cat. And when she dropped that Barbie joke, that was the moment I decided. No more gentle fixes. No more silent saves. She wanted blinking lights? Fine. I'd give her a goddamn fireworks show. Claire strutted in the following week wearing a blazer so pink it could blind a flamingo. She carried a reusable cup that said CEO of Change, and I swear to God, someone in HR actually clapped when she walked past. By Tuesday, she'd rewritten half the org chart on a Google Jamboard, color-coded in pastels and labeled with curacy startup jargon, innovation ninjas, cloud gurus, data whisperers, real live laugh load balancer energy. My name wasn't on it, not even in fine print. She pitched a full infrastructure overhaul during the Monday stand-up, claimed our stack was prehistoric and that we needed a clean break from dinosaur code. Said she had a vision. Of course, the vision involved ditching everything I'd built, tested, repaired, rewired, and held together with 2 decades worth of duct tape, instincts, and sleep deprivation. The execs lapped it up like dogs at a gravy spill. All they heard was cloud-native, automated scaling, and zero-trust architecture. Never mind that she couldn't tell you what subnet her own laptop was on. She had Canva slides and bullet points. That's what mattered. Suddenly, the weekly ops sync became strategy circles. Calendar invites vanished. Slack permissions got quietly nerfed. Shared folders I'd curated like an overworked librarian were now read-only. Claire started assigning the marketing intern to review migration timelines. The marketing intern. Kid didn't even know how to clear his browser cache, but there he was, nodding like a bobblehead while Claire explained how legacy protocols are like trauma, we just need to let them go. I sat there day after day, a ghost in my own department. My badge still beeped me through the door, but inside, I was watching strangers redecorate my house while I sat duct taped to the damn couch. And the thing is, I was angry. Of course I was angry. But more than that, I was curious, because Claire wasn't just replacing me. She was building her ivory tower on land riddled with sinkholes. She didn't understand the bones of our system, how our payroll integration was piggybacking off an old CRM endpoint because of a licensing clause from 2013, or how our notification stack depended on a deprecated Twilio webhook I'd patched with my own damn fingers after the vendor pulled support at 2 a.m. 3 years ago. So I started watching and recording Slack threads, meeting screenshots, emails that said one thing and contradicted another. I took notes like a court stenographer with a grudge. I archived the whiteboard Claire used in her innovation jam session, complete with the part where she misspelled Kubernetes and tried to play it off as a joke. When she submitted her draft migration plan, I requested access. She denied it, said, "You're not part of this flow anymore, but feel free to follow along." So I did, quietly, with my own copy, which I decrypted in about 20 minutes because she used the same damn password she used for her Spotify. I watched her schedule interviews with vendors and forget to ask about system compatibility. I watched her log tickets in Jira and assign them to the data squad, which was 3 new hires who thought a DNS error meant the Wi-Fi was down. Claire started giving lunch and learn sessions called Rebuilding for the Future. She mocked the old stack like it was a roach motel. Said things like, "We're not burning bridges, we're building rockets." Real inspirational poster stuff. She didn't know those bridges were still active, that her rockets were duct taped to my engines. I started backing up logs nightly. I created snapshots of all the configurations she tweaked. I preserved before and after states of every environment she touched. I tagged timestamps, copied S3 buckets, and stored them in a private repo under an innocuous name. Clarify V2 backup draft zip, no one noticed. Claire was too busy holding court in glass-walled conference rooms, drawing hexagons on whiteboards like a kindergarten kid discovering shapes. Meanwhile, I mapped every critical dependency she missed, every undocumented service she pretended didn't matter, every line of code she skipped because it wasn't sexy enough to present on a slide deck. She thought I was bitter. She thought I was done. What she didn't know was that I'd just started writing the script, not the kind you run, the kind you read to legal. The first cracks appeared on a Wednesday morning, just as the marketing team was prepping a new campaign launch and finance was knee-deep in quarterly reconciliation. Perfect timing, really, like a magician sawing a woman in half mid-flight. It started with a missing backup. One of our sales databases, CRM v3 final, just vanished. The backup Claire's team insisted was cloud redundant turned out to be a misconfigured storage bucket tied to a staging profile that hadn't synced in 9 days. 9 days. In tech time, that's 2 lifetimes and a lawsuit. Claire blamed the legacy file structure, said it was like trying to back up a haunted mansion with a USB stick. Her team laughed. I didn't. I just checked the error log and found her junior engineer tried to compress an active database with a script copied off Stack Overflow, line for line. He didn't even remove the comments. The next day, ticketing broke. Customer support flagged an influx of angry users complaining that their submitted forms kept returning 500 fours or worse, duplicate confirmations. Some got billed twice. Others got emails thanking them for purchases they never made. Even had one poor soul get CC'd on a bulk internal memo about Claire's Dev Glow Up 2025 roadmap. Meanwhile, the QA team was drowning in failed test cases, buttons not rendering, sessions timing out, carts resetting at checkout. Claire's solution? She added glitter to the UI. Literally. She swapped out the standard submit button with a sparkly animated version called Glow Up BTN that pulsed like a dying nightclub strobe. And someone pointed out that accessibility testing hadn't been run. She waved her nails and said, "We'll fix that in V2. She called an all-hands meeting Friday morning to address the narrative. That's what she said, not the issues, the narrative. She stood at the front of the conference room, pacing like a TED talk dropout. "We're encountering some resistance from outdated frameworks and siloed tribal knowledge," she announced. Frankly, the old systems were intentionally obfuscated. It's like someone wanted to make themselves indispensable. My eyebrows did a slow rise because I knew where this was going. Some folks, she continued, eyes flicking toward me without ever making full contact, spent years wrapping critical code in duct tape and storing information in their heads instead of proper documentation. That's not innovation. That's sabotage through stagnation. A few heads turned toward me. One even nodded. I took a sip of my coffee, set it down. "Claire," I said, keeping my voice steady, "if you'd like, I can walk your team through the infrastructure logic and endpoint dependencies. I also have documentation, we're good," she snapped, loud enough to make the interns flinch. Thanks, Barbie, but we're building the new system, not preserving a museum. Silence, I smiled. Oh, I said gently, of course, just offering. And that was the moment I knew I wasn't going to save her. Not this time. Because here's the thing about old duct tape. It's ugly, sticky, probably covered in cat hair, but it holds. It knows. Claire thought she was rewriting history. But she didn't realize she was scrubbing the walls with gasoline and calling it a spring cleaning. So I sat back and let it happen. Let her patch the cart service without realizing it piggybacked off a login token that expired every Sunday at midnight. Let her deploy her pretty new form builder without checking the encoding on the backend that mangled Unicode submissions. Let her ignore the caching layer entirely, leading to a 3-minute delay between payment and confirmation, just enough time for panicked customers to hit buy now again. Every warning I didn't give her, I logged it. Every Slack message where she dismissed a concern, I archived it. Every I got this followed by a mess she couldn't mop up, I timestamped it and stored the receipts, because she didn't just want to win, she wanted me erased. She wasn't just building something new, she was burning the ground I'd walked on, salting the earth, smiling through it. That's when I stopped playing defense and started planning the detonation. Claire's downfall didn't start with a bug or a crash. It started with a binder. A beige, boring, 30-page PDF binder labeled Infomap Legacy Final PDF that I accidentally left in the shared drive after a company-wide cleanup request. Nestled right there between files called Holiday PTO Policy and Old HR Onboarding Guide 2018. It looked harmless, outdated, comfortably dusty, and Claire? She pounced like a raccoon on a shiny Dorito. She opened it during one of her Momentum Monday meetings and shouted, "Finally, some infrastructure mapping we can use." I watched from 2 chairs down as she started scribbling the diagrams onto a whiteboard like she'd uncovered the Rosetta Stone. Even added her own flair, doodle hearts, next to where she planned to insert her smart authentication layer. She never questioned why a doc labeled Legacy still worked so neatly with the names of our production servers, or why the notes stopped exactly at the one module she kept calling the easy one to refactor. That module? Oh, honey, that was the heart of the system. A janky little daemon script that handled cross-platform user handoffs, token resets, and permission syncing. I wrote it 10 years ago in a fit of Red Bull-fueled panic after a vendor upgrade bricked half our login stack. It was never supposed to last. It just did, like cockroaches and Nicolas Cage. The doc. It conveniently skipped that script. No mention. No flow diagram, no red arrows or notes. But the script itself? Still humming away on a hidden subroutine, tethered to an environment variable Claire never asked about, because she didn't even know to look. See, she thought she was outmaneuvering me. She thought I was a relic, that I didn't know what a container was or how to fork a repo. She'd made some crack about boomers and get in a Slack thread and added a cry laugh emoji. Real cutting-edge leadership energy, so I gave her exactly what she wanted, the illusion of control. A fake map. A loaded gun with the safety quietly flipped off. She built her migration plan around that dock. Mapped her shiny new architecture on top of the old one like she was building IKEA furniture over a pit trap. She used the outdated naming conventions, missed the silent dependencies, skipped the compliance ping that came from the legacy SFTP token that auto-purged every 30 days unless renewed by a script running off my backup cron job. The best part? She started referencing the binder in her stakeholder updates, quoting lines, explaining how the previous architect had buried the logic in a weird hybrid model we now understand. She was proud of figuring it out. I watched, I smiled, and I sharpened the knife. One of her junior engineers pinged me quietly, asked if I had any notes on the user cache. I sent him a snippet from a 2017 changelog, just enough to look useful, just enough to reinforce the narrative that the binder was gospel. Meanwhile, I ran a test clone of her migration setup in my own sandbox, fed it simulated traffic, watched it wobble when the orphan script ran a token sweep at 2:15 a.m. and deleted 3 session bridges. Claire wouldn't notice until live deployment. And when she did, she'd assume it was a server error. Her logs wouldn't catch the script. It ran off a legacy cron scheduled under my old login, which was still technically active because someone forgot to disable admin shell access. Oops. The company's VPN logs still listed me as super user backup. Another artifact from the pandemic days, when I ran point while Claire's uncle tried to migrate us to Microsoft Teams and accidentally nuked a week of emails. And no one questioned it. Why would they? I didn't raise a fuss. I smiled. I nodded. I even complimented Claire's slide deck once. Because here's what Claire never learned. Revenge isn't loud. It's not shouting in a meeting or sending a mass email with receipts. It's precision. It's feeding someone just enough rope to hang their career from, and making sure the noose is made of PowerPoint slides and fake confidence. So I waited, watched her build her tower out of old wood and blind faith, and I left one match sitting under the foundation, ready to strike. It was during Tactical Thursday. Yes, that's what she called it when Claire clapped her acrylics together and said, "Okay, folks, the migration goes live Monday, 9:00 a.m. sharp. New era, clean slate, No more digital duct tape. She said it like a toast, like she was christening a yacht made of brittle ambition and Red Bull fumes. The conference room applauded. Even Greg from facilities gave her a thumbs up, and he thought a VPN was a new kind of printer. I sat in the corner of the meeting, half shadow, half statue, sipping stale coffee that tasted like copper toner and decisions you can't take back. Claire didn't acknowledge me. She was too busy handing out laminated cards with QR codes linking to her launch readiness checklist. It had bullet points like glow up BTN rendering verified and slay stack container health equals Yaz. Real technical stuff. She'd even scheduled a company-wide demo at 9:30 a.m. to walk everyone through the post-legacy era. HR would be there, marketing, the executive team. She was bringing bagels and an oat milk bar. Her PowerPoint had embedded GIFs. One of them winked. The bosses, her uncle included, praised her initiative, said it was the kind of bold action we've needed since the reorg. One of them used the word inspirational. Another said visionary. They didn't know that she'd hard-coded her username into 3 separate Docker containers. They didn't know that half her unit tests were copied from GitHub issues she didn't understand. They didn't care. I walked back to my desk, opened my terminal, breathed, and started prepping the staging environment, exactly how she wanted it. No warnings, no tweaks, no clever band-aids, no quiet fixes at 3 a.m. to protect people from themselves. This time I followed the script to the letter. Her script, her flawed assumptions, her pastel-colored flowcharts. I copied her JSON files, used her ports, even renamed the test environment to glow up stage like she wrote in her notes. I documented every change, snapshotted every config, logged every keystroke, all with timestamps, all traceable. I wasn't covering for anyone anymore, not even me, because this wasn't about sabotage. This was about clarity, letting the system reveal itself, letting her choices echo. The next day, Claire strutted through the hallway with a speaker clipped to her belt playing Confident by Demi Lovato. She wore a t-shirt that said Legacy. Never heard of her. She passed by my cubicle, paused just long enough to flash me a grin, and said, "Get ready for Monday, Barbie. It's gonna be iconic." I smiled, not bitter, just tired and maybe a little curious. Because deep down, some foolish part of me still wanted her to prove me wrong. Still wanted her to realize the job wasn't about rebrands or taglines or pastel roadmaps. It was about infrastructure. Quiet things, ugly things, dependencies no one remembers until they fail. But Claire wasn't here to learn. She was here to perform, so I sat back and let the show take shape. All weekend, she posted countdowns in Slack. T-2 days to glow up. Have your oat milk preferences ready? Big energy, bigger changes. Her team worked late, posted selfies in the server room. She even posed next to the LED panel and captioned it, "Me and my babies, let's glow." I stayed quiet. Ran diagnostics. Verified everything worked as far as she knew. And when I was done, I poured myself a whiskey. Neat. Sat on my back porch watching the night settle in over the town like a blanket of smoke. And I felt it, not rage, not pride, just anticipation. Like the pause before a storm when the birds go quiet and the air smells like metal, because Monday was coming. And Claire was about to meet the ghosts she forgot to account for. Friday afternoon smelled like burned coffee, desperation, and one too many bottles of grocery store Prosecco. Claire had turned the break room into what she called Glow Zone HQ. Streamers, balloons, a cardboard cutout of Steve Jobs holding a ring light. There was a photo booth made out of the old HR cubicle divider and a handwritten sign that read, "Bye bye boomer code." She wore a sequin blazer that shimmered like a disco ball on a budget and made sure everyone had a glow up 2025 sticker slapped somewhere on their shirt. She called it a send-off to the past and passed around pink cupcakes with icing shaped like little flames. Subtle. Her crew clinked plastic cups, posed for selfies, and toasted to burning it all down. Someone handed Claire a Sharpie and she wrote "RIP Legacy" on the whiteboard, underlining it with a heart. She capped it off with a speech. "On Monday, we deploy confidence. We deploy us. The future isn't coded in bash scripts, it's written in vision." I didn't clap, I didn't look up. Because across the hall, in a quiet cubicle with a busted wheel and a coffee ring on the desk, I was busy crafting the one line of defense Claire hadn't thought to erase. A single flag, buried in the deployment logic. Something old, something boring. Conditional gate labeled compliance override equals false. It had lived there since 2016. Back when legal insisted we build in a system-wide failsafe, just in case some eager beaver engineer tried to push code that didn't meet regulatory requirements. Most folks forgot about it. Claire never knew it existed. But it sat there like a forgotten landmine, quietly checking every deployment for a dozen conditions: data encryption certs, API key registrations, logging policy compliance, all the boring crap Claire called legacy friction. She never flipped the override. I made sure of that. I tweaked the firewall rules just enough so her new environment would choke trying to handshake with the monitoring demon she'd skipped. I documented everything, screenshotted every setting, saved her Slack messages in case she tried to deny it. Took a photo of her sparkly Kanban board for posterity. All of it timestamped, all of it quiet. Across the office, Claire was snapping a group photo. Her team shouted, "Glow up or grow old," while hoisting their plastic flutes of lukewarm rosé. She tagged it #bye Barbie on Slack and laughed like it was the cleverest thing she'd ever written. Maybe it was. I saved the screenshot. Saved it twice, actually. Then I sat back, stretched my neck, ran one last dry deployment test in a sandbox. It failed. Perfect. I toggled a dummy variable to simulate Monday's conditions. Ran the log output. Watched as the error message came through, deployment blocked, non-compliant architecture detected, auth token mismatch. Flag equals false. I smiled, surgical, silent. I didn't break anything, I just stopped it from going live. Legally, ethically, logically, it was airtight. Claire didn't ask about compliance. She didn't think about it. She was too busy naming folders after hashtags and replacing my file paths with emoji labels. She assumed my silence was permission, that my smile meant surrender. She never once wondered what I was building behind that smile. The rest of the day crawled by in slow motion. Her crew packed up early, buzzing about oat milk options and demo playlists. Claire walked out last, shooting me a finger gun on her way past. "Rest up, Barbie. Monday's gonna be epic," I nodded. "It will be, but not for the reason you think." Monday morning was all buzz and no bandwidth. Claire showed up early, dragging a rolling suitcase full of swag, custom water bottles that said "Glow hard or go home," a Bluetooth speaker, even matching t-shirts for her team that read "First-class coders." The projector screen in the main conference room was already lit up with a countdown timer set to 9:00 a.m. sharp. Claire stood at the front like she was hosting a product launch in Cupertino, not a half-baked infrastructure gamble built on borrowed diagrams and blind faith. Her uncle, the coup, sat in the front row smiling like he just bought stock in her confidence. Employees trickled in, paper plates of catered muffins in hand. HR, marketing, legal, sales. Everyone was here for the moment. "A new era," she said. Claire even hired a freelance videographer to record the demo. He wore a vest with too many pockets and smelled like optimism. I watched from the back corner of the room with my coffee, black, burnt, comforting. Claire cleared her throat and beamed. "Good morning, team. I hope you're all ready to witness the future." She turned to her laptop, flipped the screen toward the crowd, and with a dramatic flourish, clicked the glowing button labeled Deploy Glow Stack. The screen blinked. Froze. Nothing. A pin could have dropped and echoed through the VPN tunnels. Claire blinked, clicked again, still nothing. Her smile twitched like a bad Wi-Fi signal. Just a sec, probably just a caching hiccup." She opened the logs. Tabs flew like confetti. The audience watched in that nervous, second-hand kind of way, like someone watching a wedding cake tilt slowly on a windy day. Her lead dev leaned over her shoulder and whispered something. She nodded too quickly. Hit deploy again, still nothing. The projector displayed a cheerful message: "Deployment paused, architecture non-compliant. Consult admin for override permissions." Claire laughed nervously. Okay, little glitchy glitch, totally normal when you're working at the cutting edge." She toggled a few settings, tried to SSH into the server. Terminal blinked, then spat back, "Access denied. Insufficient privileges." A hush started creeping over the room like fog on a swamp. Claire's voice pitched higher. "This is just a misflag. Happens all the time when you're dealing with old systems. Duct tape ghosts, am I right?" No one laughed. DevOps guy, Marcus, squinted at his laptop from the side of the room. Claire, can you come look at this real quick?" She bolted over like a pageant queen on stilts. I took another sip of my coffee. Still warm, still bitter. Perfect. Claire leaned over Marcus's screen. Her smile cracked just a little. She pointed. "Wait, what is that log line?" Marcus frowned. "It's checking against a compliance flag. Something to do with cert sync, legacy SFTP token, and endpoint dependencies. It says the system flagged the architecture as non-compliant. Who's the current compliance gate admin?" Claire's voice dropped. "I thought we disabled that. We removed all the legacy scripts." I didn't even look up when I said calmly, "No, Claire. You removed references to them. You never disabled the actual service. It still live. It's checking for conditions you didn't meet." She turned slowly. Her eyes landed on me like a dart that missed the board and hit drywall. Why didn't you tell us?" "I wasn't CC'd," I replied. Took another sip. The room held its collective breath. The videographer whispered, "Should I keep filming?" No one answered. From the side of the room, someone from security muttered, "We're seeing connection attempts from deprecated containers. Looks like some endpoints are still pinging the legacy sync daemon. That's not good." Claire's hands were shaking now. She clicked faster, trying to brute force a workaround. Marcus stood, quietly unplugged his laptop, and backed away like he'd seen this fire before and wanted no part of the burn. Then legal entered the room. They weren't smiling. They never smile. One of them held a manila folder. Another opened a laptop and started typing. I watched Claire's face cycle through all 5 stages of corporate grief: denial, bargaining, panic, Slack search, and please someone say this is a prank. But it wasn't, because this wasn't an accident. This was a mirror, and she was finally looking into it. It didn't take long. By 9:23 a.m., Claire's glow stack was already being dissected like a frog on a biology desk, and the gloves were off. Security had looped in IT. IT had looped in legal. And legal? Legal was already 2 steps ahead, flipping through printed logs like they'd been waiting for this moment with popcorn and subpoenas. Claire was trying to talk faster than the room could process. Okay, listen, the logs are probably referencing deprecated containers. We deprecated them last week. Or maybe they didn't get purged because the garbage collection failed, or like, cache is pointing to a legacy subnet. We can fix this, it's just a rollout hiccup, a classic day one cloud stumble. Legal didn't blink, they just kept highlighting. Then came the fatal line, deployment blocked, admin signature missing. The screen displayed my name, in clear system stamped letters, override required, architect signature not present. Silence. The COO's face turned a pale shade of oh shit. He glanced at Claire, then at me, then down at his tablet like he was trying to scroll away from reality. One of the compliance officers finally spoke. Can someone explain why a critical deployment was attempted without the necessary administrative signature? Claire laughed, too loud, too dry. That flag was supposed to be obsolete. We migrated off that. I mean, I have full privileges. I am the project lead. No, legal said, tapping a finger on their notes. You are not the architect of record. And per policy, your own updated deployment docs. By the way, any live push involving security-critical infrastructure must be reviewed and signed off by the original system architect or a designated compliance proxy. That's outdated. It's not even in the new system design, Claire shrieked. Someone in the room pulled up Slack. Quietly, efficiently, typed in her name. Searched Barbie doesn't know Git, clicked, there it was. A Slack message, timestamped 2 weeks ago. From Claire herself, we're pushing forward with or without her. Barbie's out, she doesn't even understand what we're building. The screen lit up with it, I didn't speak, I didn't move. I just watched her words loop around the room like a slow boomerang with razors taped to it. She looked at me finally. Eyes wild. Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you help? I set my coffee down on the table next to me. Folded my hands. You made it clear I wasn't invited. And then you made sure I stayed out. Claire started to speak, then didn't, because even she could feel it now, the air had shifted. This wasn't a launch anymore, it was a postmortem. Can I talk to you? Someone asked. It wasn't a request. 10 minutes later, I was in a glass-walled conference room with 2 members of legal, the head of IT, a compliance officer, and Claire's uncle, the man who'd hired her to disrupt our tech culture. Claire wasn't in the room. The compliance officer slid a folder toward me. We need clarification on which elements of the legacy infrastructure are still under your control. I opened the folder. Inside, printouts of my scripts, the deployment logs, email chains, Claire's Slack messages, internal architecture notes, all of them. Everything except one thing, my signature. They looked at me. I looked back, calm as still water. I didn't stop anything, I said. The system followed protocol. Protocols she ignored. She claims you deliberately withheld information, her uncle said, his voice tight. I met his eyes. I was never asked. I was never copied. I was scrubbed from the chain of communication, including compliance verification. One of the legal team tapped their pen. We confirmed that. She bypassed required sign-offs and misrepresented deployment readiness. The head of IT leaned back. We'll need to initiate a formal review. There are also potential audit violations tied to the OAuth misconfigurations and token recycling failures, stuff that was flagged months ago but never escalated. The compliance officer looked to me. Is there anything else we should know? Anything that might be buried? I took a breath. I have full documentation of every environment state before and after the changes. Logs, snapshots, Slack exports, calendar records, everything. Properly archived. No edits. No one spoke for a moment. Then, send it to us. All of it, I nodded. Across the glass wall, I could see Claire pacing in the hallway, arms flailing as she tried to salvage what was left of her launch. Her team sat in the corner, slack-jawed. Some stared at their screens, others just packed up. It was quiet in the room, not victorious, not triumphant, just cold, clinical, necessary. The blade doesn't scream when it cuts, it simply works. The CEO didn't come in person. He didn't have to. His voice rang through the speakerphone in the executive boardroom like the wrath of God filtered through Bluetooth. So, let me get this straight, he said, measured and cold. Our system failed mid-migration because someone ignored every deployment protocol, dismissed compliance sign-off requirements, and mocked the only person who understood the infrastructure well enough to prevent it? Silence. Claire stood at the head of the long oak table, her sparkle blazer limp, mascara smudged at the edges. No laptop now, no clipboard, just trembling hands and a paper cup of untouched water. I didn't, she started, voice dry. I didn't ignore them, there was so much redundancy built in, and I assumed you assumed, the CEO repeated flatly. He let the word rot in the air. One of the legal officers, sitting just left of Claire, opened a laptop and swiveled it around for the rest of the room to see. On screen, the Slack log, time-stamped, crystal clear. Claire, Barbie doesn't even know how to use Git. She's like 2 coffee mugs away from retiring in a rocking chair. The CEO spoke again. That's you, Claire. That's your message 2 weeks ago. Sent just after you removed the only person on staff with architect-level clearance from the deployment group, the same person whose sign-off was required per our own security protocols, who documented every risk, every warning, every change you never bothered to read. Claire's mouth opened. Nothing came out. From my seat, 3 chairs down, I reached into my bag. slid a worn black binder across the table, pages slightly curled at the edges. No drama, no flourish, just clarity. Inside, email threads where I offered help, Slack pings ignored, calendar invites accidentally deleted, screenshots of the compliance flag Claire never disabled, timestamps, version histories, security alerts, a quiet autopsy of arrogance. The CEO was silent as someone flipped through the binder. Page by page, the room stiffened. I didn't say a word, I didn't need to. The documentation spoke in a voice louder than any speech Claire had ever given. It spoke in log files, in system traces, in checklists she'd laughed at and protocol sheets she'd tossed. Then the CEO exhaled. Effective immediately, he said, voice cutting through every inch of Claire's delusion. Claire, please hand in your badge. HR will escort you. Legal will follow up regarding data integrity, audit risk, and potential compliance breach reporting. Claire looked around like someone just shouted fire in a locked elevator. Her uncle wouldn't meet her eyes. HR was already standing, but you don't understand, she whispered. This was supposed to be my launch. It was, the CEO said, and now it's your liability. She didn't scream, she didn't cry. She just stood there, slow and robotic, peeling the Glow Up 2025 sticker off her laptop lid as if realizing for the first time that it had never really belonged there. The door clicked behind her. The room was still. Someone turned off the projector. A few chairs squeaked as people stood and muttered vague excuses to leave. And I stayed seated, just watching the blinking server monitor on the wall flash its steady heartbeat. Alive, stable, unmoved. The machine had survived, not because it was shiny, but because someone had loved it enough to understand its chaos. I picked up my coffee, cold now, but still drinkable. Outside, Claire's glitter trail had already started fading under the scuffed rubber soles of real work, and I, quietly, calmly, went back to mine. Big thanks for watching, you sneaky seniors. Subscribe to keep the coffee pot brewing revenge. Your ex-colleagues won't know what hit 'em.